Packages, the way you held that stage there. She's now celebrating an incredible 6 decades in show business, and Elaine joins us now to chat about her remarkable career. I mean, when you see that package put together in all those different kind of incarnations of yourself, what do you think?
I know. Well, I think to myself, I mean, it was a bit like the Palladium the other night.
Yeah.
You know, this concert that the BBC have thought up to put on for me was just amazing, and because all of those songs were sung by a wonderful West End cast of performers, and to see the Palladium Theatre packed to the rafters with people that were there just who wanted to lose themselves in their love of musical theatre was just wonderful. It was amazing, amazing night.
I imagine, Elaine, that there's a thing that happened because we went to the audience with Sir Tim Rice. He did one at the Palladium last week.
Yes, well, 4 days later.
Yes, 4 days later.
We're all reflecting.
But,
Yeah,
and it's a similar 60 years, of course. And there is a thing that happens. You just have to look around the audience, the joy and the smiles on everyone's faces. Not least everyone singing along with all the words or mouthing the words. Nick Ferrari and his fiancée were sitting in front of him. They were singing along, and I could see some of my colleagues. My mum was with me.
Yes.
There's just this shared collective sense of connection that comes.
That's right. Well, because it does take us back, and we are all reflecting on those years, and particularly for me that night, and Tim's show as well. It's all about musical theatre, and well, mainly anyway, certainly on my standpoint. And I was sitting there both the night for me and his night, thinking, gosh, wasn't I lucky to be part of British musical theatre and being cast in those fantastic shows, Billy from Don Black with Michael Crawford at Drury Lane, and having those wonderful songs, one hit after the other, you know, Billy, Grease, Chess, Argentina and Evita, Memory and Cats. I mean, there was one hit after another, which is something that I don't think you kind of get quite so much today.
Elaine, you say lucky, but there's an element of luck. But you had to work really, really hard to get that first role in Evita that sort of was that moment when you met Andrew and Tim wrote the words, of course. I didn't realise how many auditions they made you do.
Oh, I don't know, about 8 or something like that.
Just the 8 auditions?
It seemed that you know, one was going back week after week after week, and I always wore the same clothes, did my hair up in a 40s sort of hairstyle, and in the hope that might sort of jog their memory and help them remember me. But I can remember the final audition at Andrew's apartment in London, and that was the one where he kept asking me to sing Rainbow High over and over again.
Which is the one he said is the hardest to sing of all,
that's why
right?
I think he was getting me to do it, you know, back to back, just to see if I could sustain it. Yes, of course. And, you know, I was so desperate to win the part, I thought, gosh, I know that this is a serious final audition. But it was, you know, very exciting to get that part. Yes, I really wanted to get it, and pretty amazed when I did.
I love it when the agent turns up in a cape with a bottle of champagne at 12 o'clock at night and goes,
that's right.
You got it.
At midnight.
Changed your life.
Yes, it changed my life, but that was a midnight thing. Yeah. And then much later on with Cats, another midnight figures. I don't know why, quite a lot in my life, because that's when I saw this bedraggled cat and heard a fragment of the tune of Memory on the radio, on the car radio, coming home from a dinner party. And the next day, Cameron Mackintosh rang me up and said, we've got a bit of a problem, will you come and do you fancy sort of taking over the role of Grisabella? So, I mean, yes, midnight and black cats, there's a lot of spooky going on there.
But Judi Dench was supposed to do it, and she'd hurt her ankle.
She had more than hurt herself. She snapped her Achilles tendon and was carted off to hospital, poor woman. Wow. So her demise was my good fortune.
Wow. And there's been loads of stories along the way. There was one that we've heard, which is when you were on stage in the musical Hair, which at the time was very cutting edge. It was kind of quite controversial in a way. They had to change the law, I think, even.
They did, yes.
Because of the nudity at the end.
That's right, absolutely right.
And you were a bit worried about it.
Well, I wasn't worried about them changing the law, but I was worried about having to get my kit off, frankly. And a bit of a wimp at the idea of it, but I managed to do it with a good friend of mine who was in the cast, Gary Hamilton. God rest his soul, he's no longer longer with us. But yes, he offered to stand next to me and hold my hand, you see. So the moment came and we had to stand up from under this sheet naked, and the shock, I can't tell you. I don't know if you've ever stood naked in front of a lot of people, but it takes a bit of courage and to have done that, you know, to stand there. And of course I put my hand out to hold his hand, only to find it wasn't his hand I was holding, if you get my drift. So,
because
it was very funny. I think, you know, I must have bellowed, "Ah!" or something.
Because he was quite a big man, wasn't he?
He was tall.
Tall,
yeah,
tall
big
man.
guy.
Tall
yeah,
would be
very
better.
tall. So
use.
for me down here, you get the dimensions, if you see what I mean.
Although seemingly quite fitting within the world of hair, to have reached out and grabbed the wrong part of somebody wasn't necessarily as much of an issue.
It was cool at the time. I mean, it was a different time entirely, obviously. And I also can remember from that show, I understudied Annabelle Levington and to sing the part of Sheila, and I was to sing Easy to Be Hard. And I think I maybe went on once or twice when she was off, but the worst one was the part of Genie, and there were 3 understudies to each character. And they were all off at the same time, and they carted me on. They said, "You're our best bet," and shoved me on to play Genie. And of course, it's a role that I hadn't learned the role. I didn't know it, and how I managed to come up through that trap door and sing "Welcome Sulphur Dioxide" and everything else, I do not know. But I think I must have learned it through osmosis,
Just
being there every night. But of course, in the wings, I didn't know the scenes at all, so I was desperately trying to get, you know, an idea of how to play the scenes, because I didn't have a clue. It's very frightening.
But the show must go on.
And I decided never understudy. From that moment on,
Oh, really?
I never understudied again. It's not part of my nature to have that stress.
Yeah, and then there was Broadway too. You did Sunset Boulevard on Broadway, which must have been incredible to go to New York City and have standing ovation.
Well, you know, both with Evita, Cats and Chess, I was unable to go to Broadway. So, you know, and every performer in Broadway, they want to play the West End, and we all want to play Broadway. It's just part of the way it is. And it took me 18 years to finally play Broadway in Sunset Boulevard, playing Norma Desmond. And I can remember walking down the stairs, you know, to deliver the first line. And I didn't get around to deliver the first line because the audience gave me this rather embarrassing kind of ovation before I'd even opened my mouth.
Well, they had been waiting all that time for you to get to Broadway as well, you see.
I suppose, but they did kind of know me through my recordings. You know, I'd recorded Evita and Chess and Cats and everything, so they sort of knew me. But the line was, "Why are you so late?" And I can remember sort of smiling to myself, thinking, well, I know why, because it's taken me 18 years to get there.
Elaine, it's so lovely to have you come and join us.
Lovely to see you too.
Really,
Thank
real
you.
And please keep doing the BBC Radio 2 show.
Oh, I'm glad
love
you
it
love it.
so much.
Yes.
I'm always cooking in the kitchen and I've got it on in the
Yes, well,
background.
that's the one now people come up to me and talk to me most about. Yes,
Magical.
it's that.
Lovely to see.
Yes.
Thank you.
You can catch 60 Years in Show Business on Radio 2. That's this Sunday. And then Elaine's chat with the amazing Zoe Ball is on BBC4.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.